So here I am in beautiful Newmarket at Mr. Brad Jones's house and his wife's house, and he has absolutely stunning, beautiful Zen gardens in the back of his house here. I don't know if you can see, probably see the waterfall there, the bamboo waterfall. Absolutely gorgeous. It's a beautiful day. And as you know, this is another edition of WiseTalks, where I like to bring the wisdom of people who have really succeeded in what it is that they've concentrated on in life. And in this particular instant, it's karate and running a dojo, and that's what Brad Jones Sensei Brad has been able to do. And I'd just like to first of all introduce Sensei, and also say that I've known Brad for, I don't know, 16 years or something, or somewhere?
Maybe 20.
Maybe 20 years now. Time flies when you're having fun. And I was introduced to Brad through a mutual friend, and we sort of hit it off right away and started doing some work together in regards to going into schools. Brad had a program where he went into schools and he taught the high school children assault prevention techniques and self-defense techniques, not just the physical, but also the mental, the psychological, the being aware of your surroundings. I mean, the whole kit and caboodle, which I really resonated to, and that's where I thought, this is a guy that I want to stay in touch with and know, because he's doing a lot of what I like to do, and we just hit it off. So, Brad, thank you very much for agreeing to do this interview.
Thank you, Terry. Pleasure.
Say thanks for being an addition to this wonderful series. I guess probably one of the first things that people would want to know is, what got you interested in martial arts, karate specifically? What was the interest there for you?
Well, martial arts is not for everyone, of course, and as a young fellow, I was a young teenager, 14 years old when I first became interested. I had tried baseball and hockey, the standard sports that one would play, and mind you, this is going back to the 60s, so it's 1969, and I became fascinated by martial arts, and there was very little of it around. I remember picking up a book one time and looking through it. It was the only book you could find in a Kohl's bookstore. I took it in the basement, and I was mimicking the movements that made absolutely no sense whatsoever.
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, watching The Green Hornet.
Yes,
with Bruce Lee. And,
of course.
Later on, in the 70s, we had the Kung Fu series with David Carradine.
Yeah.
That built some interest, of course. And then one day, a dojo opened here in Newmarket. So at the time, I was a young musician as well. I had a little band playing and so on. I was doing quite well with this. And I saw this poster about this karate dojo going to open. So I came home and I told my father, I said, "Dad, I want to do karate. It's really cool." He looked at me and said, "Why would you want to do that? You'll wreck your hands. You won't be able to play the guitar anymore." Okay, so I went and joined anyway, against his will. And the rest is history.
Yeah.
It's been...
So you joined at what age?
I was 14.
14 you joined. And you and I are parallel, because I watched the Green Hornet, I watched the David Carradine, the Bruce Lee movies, and anything else that was about martial arts related. I was like, yeah, this is where my interest is. Now, you started at 14, and I believe you actually, you've done some training in Toronto too. Were there not some affiliate clubs in Toronto? You want to tell us a little bit about that? Because I've been there to a couple of them with you over the years.
The fellow who opened the school here in Newmarket first, it didn't last very long. It was maybe a couple of years. He moved away, so I ended up, I was too young to drive, so I would hitchhike to Richmond Hill, to a place that I found there.
Whatever it takes.
Exactly, and that didn't work out either. It closed down. So I ended up hitchhiking down to near York University. There was a dojo running there. And I trained there for some time. Then I got a driver's license, was able to drive there and back.
That makes a difference.
And then a few years later, a school opened up that was affiliated with Sensei Soroka in Toronto.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And my instructor's name was Umberto Marasco. And it was run through the town of Newmarket. So I ended up training here with him, and that got me in touch with Sensei Soroka. So between training in Newmarket with Umberto and then training in Toronto with Sensei Soroka a couple of days a week, that's where it really took off. Mm-hmm. And I think when I achieved my black belt, I forget what year it was, but I was 21 at the time.
21.
And I took over the dojo from Umberto, who didn't like to travel up and down all the time. So I took over, and next year will be 40 years since I took it over.
Amazing.
So it was a town rec program, 2 days a week in a school gym, and that worked fine for a while. But the school kept closing and for various functions, and I didn't have the continuity of training that was necessary. And I ended up going and registering my name as a business, renting a Legion Hall a couple of days a week.
Wow.
And that's where it began. So
And here you
39
are.
years ago,
Yeah.
It started as a business.
Yeah.
Still had a full-time job. I worked as an electrician. At the time, was at the Havilland Aircraft, working as
Yeah.
a maintenance electrician.
And he hasn't done that for a long time,
No.
let me tell you.
But I still have tools.
He still has the tools.
Still a useful skill.
You might know how to actually put two wires together still,
That's
too.
right.
But for as long as I've known Brad, it's always been about karate. And, you know, I've been up here numerous times to dojos in the past that he's had. But I have to say one thing. You're going to see some pictures of this dojo as well. The dojo that he created, how long ago was it that you opened this dojo now?
This one, 11 years now.
11 years ago, Brad said to me, yeah, I'm thinking about buying a building and creating a dojo out of it. And I thought, you're going to buy a building in Newmarket and you're going to create a dojo out of it? I couldn't get my mind around it. I just like, you're going to buy it and make it. But I have to tell you, I would come up here and see the different phases that Brad, and he'd always be in there working on it during the day, before classes started. And phase by phase, it would change until one year I came up and he had the floors down and he had all his, pictures up and, the whole kit and caboodle, weight rooms, everything, a major traditional training floor that is parallel to what you would see in Japan. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous, and he has created something very special here in Newmarket, which you'll get a chance to see through some of the footage that I shoot at his school as well. So Brad, what inspired you to say, hey, I want to create a dojo, I want to buy the building, create it, and make it as original to what I've seen in Japan? What was behind that?
Well, firstly, I traveled to Japan several times. 23 years old the first time I went over for 4 months. Then every 2 years I would go over for at least 4 to 5 months at a time, which got me into a lot of dojos and the atmosphere in the dojo. Because I'd been in schools here in North America that are often referred to as a studio. Not that that's a problem, that's just a slightly different approach. Than if you call something a dojo, there's a certain atmosphere and a certain protocol that's used in a dojo. So firstly, I wanted to create the environment that I experienced while I was in Japan, because walking into a dojo there, it was like walking into a different world. You could leave the rest of the world outside and focus on what you're doing in your training, and then when you leave, you go back into that world, that normal world of ours. So to create the environment was one thing, and then secondly, I wanted to create the dojo that I wish I could have trained at. And the reason for that, I did quite well competitively. Actually, in 1983, I made the national team. Traveled to Egypt for the World Championships at the time. So I represented Canada. It was a very proud moment, and we did well. We did very well. We didn't medal, but we did very well. Things have changed considerably since then. But back then, this is early 80s, there was no coaches, there was the senseis knew their martial arts, but they didn't know sports science, and they didn't know training methodologies to improve speed, or it was just train harder, faster, with no explanation. So I wanted to not only have the facility that I wish I could have trained at, with the correct training equipment, and then become the teacher I wish I had been, or that I would have had. So I became a level 4 coach through the NCCP and learned the sports science behind the martial arts. And for a while I was a national coach for 6 years, up until 1999, and coached at the Pan Am Games in Winnipeg in 1999.
Yeah.
Another proud moment.
Yeah.
So the whole idea was to create something that I'd never seen. And that was my sole purpose. And I realized some years before, we're all put on this planet for a reason. Some people don't discover that reason, but I did. And I realized, okay, I've got to get on with this. I've got to make this the best environment, the best training, the best inspiration. that I can be for the next generation, and hopefully when I'm finished, somebody will pick up that ball and carry it. But that was the idea behind the way it is. And when you see pictures of it, hopefully you'll understand what I'm explaining. It's an environment that you want to dive into, and we're not practicing a sport, we're practicing a martial art. And when you put on your belt and your gi and you walk out there, there's a certain attitude you have to have.
Yeah, and I have to say that you really do have a special feeling when you walk into his dojo. It really does just have this vibration of traditional martial arts, which I really, really enjoy. So, yeah, great work. Congratulations on that, Brad.
Welcome to the dojo. This is where students would enter the dojo and they would leave their shoes on these shoe racks because they wouldn't wear shoes past the edge of this stone. And this is our front lobby where people would check in before class, and our secretaries who work here in the evening look after all the administrative issues. A bit of a pro shop, if you want t-shirts, books, that sort of thing. That's all here at the front. This is the business end. Once we pass this wall, it's all about training. So this is our cross-training area, weight room. Everything we need, it's very basic, but everything we need. We have athletes who compete at high levels, and we put them on weight training programs to develop their speed and their endurance. And we also have a personal trainer that works out of this gym as well. So we've seen the reception area, the gym, the training area here for fitness training. So let's take a tour of the dojo. So we have two training facilities, two dojos. This one is a matted floor, and in here is where we practice some of our karate training, judo, aikido, jiu-jitsu, and fitness kickboxing. Main dojo. We have a sprung hardwood floor, and I mentioned before about creating the environment of a Japanese dojo. Well, you can see when you step in here, there's no mistaking, this is not a gym, this is a dojo. So over here, this is a board that has all the names of those who are various levels of black belt. Showdown being first degree black belt, second degree black belt, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Down here, these are people who are now at their third kyu or higher, brown belt level. And when they pass that test, they get a black belt, and we have their name written on it. And they take it home and they write the date that they hope to pass that test. So you can see some of them are 1 and 2 years away from now, and some actually have passed. They've reassessed their goal, haven't quite made it, but they're still at it. So when they pass their test, they'll receive their belt, the tag with their name on it, they'll hang it on there, and they'll become part of the black belt group at that point. We have other things that are posted on the wall, but in a typical dojo, there are very few distractions on the wall. All those things are in the hallway or in the lobby. All the accolades and photos of teams and so on are down there, so we have less distraction when we're training. So here we have Karate Do written in kanji. Kanji means the borrowed language. It's Chinese characters that the Japanese also use. The top one being kara, meaning emptiness, te, meaning hand, and do. Do is the Japanese equivalent of Tao, means a path. So I mentioned earlier that there was a distinction between a studio and a dojo, and I want to explain that. Over here, in many of the traditional dojos that you would find in Japan, and even outside of Japan, if they follow that lineage, you'll find one of these, called a kamidana. Now, here in North America, we would use it differently than they would in Japan. We don't use it for religious connotations whatsoever. What we do is use it as a connection to the past. So when I'm explaining to students when they start, I explain that the doors of the kamidana, or we don't use the word shrine, but when the doors are open, it represents a connection between the world of the living and whatever you consider to be an afterworld. So we say that the spirits of departed teachers would watch us from here, and hopefully they would approve. So when we enter the dojo, and when we leave the dojo, and when we start our class, we always bow in the direction of the kamidana. And the bow does not mean subservient connotations whatsoever. It means courtesy or respect. The word rei means courtesy or respect. So leaving the dojo, coming into the dojo, we pay our respect former teachers, and that's really the biggest difference in the philosophy between a studio and a dojo.
Can we talk a little bit about now the times that you've gone over to Japan? It seems like every once in a while I'd call up Brad and I'd say, Brad, let's get together. We haven't been together. Well, I'm just on my way to Japan, or I'd be organizing a trip over to India, which I've done many times over the years. I'd say, Brad, you coming on the trip to? Oh man, it's conflicting with my trip to Japan, So he goes there a lot, and I'd just like maybe touch a little bit on what is it that when you go to Japan, where do you go first of all, and then what do you do while you're there? Give us a little synopsis of your experiences over there.
Well, after I got my black belt and trained for a few years, I was one that I tend to be a type of person, if I get into something, I want to take it as far as I can. So I told Sensei Soroka that, Sensei, I want to go to Japan and I want to train in Japan. He said, fine, get a haircut. So I did. And anyway, that first trip I went was 1978, and Sensei Soroka sent me to his teacher. His teacher was in Kumamoto, in Kyushu, in the south of Japan. And the teacher was Chitose Sensei, the founder of Chito-ryu Karate. Sensei Soroka, when he first came to North America, that was his background, Chito-ryu. So I stayed there for a couple of months and lived with his family, and actually with his son in his room. We shared the room, and we got up every morning, and the dojo was the backyard. It was a dirt floor, open to the sky, surrounded by rice fields. His daughter played the koto, musical instrument that plays on the floor.
Right out of a movie.
It was. There's a couple of times I was out in the back training and I could hear the music and I see the rice fields and I thought, wow, pinch me. But the training was pretty tough. It was different because Sensei Soroka had altered his method of training to a little bit more of a Shotokan style, longer stances and so on. So the muscles were different. The Chito-ryu stances tend to be a little closer and the tension is inside, which uses different muscle groups. Anyway, that was really interesting, staying there and immersed this way. And then after leaving Chitose, I went to Tokyo. And in Tokyo, I ended up at the JKA, the Japan Karate Association headquarters. And they're the biggest karate organization in the world. They're in every country. Back in the 50s, they sort of organized themselves with an instructors program. train instructors, sent them all over the world. And unfortunately, nowadays, we're losing about one a year because they're well into their 70s, 80s by now. But they planted seeds, and the organization has grown all over the world. So once I got there and started training there, I realized, oh, this is what I've been doing. Sensei Soroka had been influenced so much by Shotokan instructors coming to North America that he incorporated a lot of their training and their training methodologies. So this felt very comfortable. It was also a very dangerous place to be. A lot of foreigners came. It was like the Mecca for Shotokan karate around the world. So there were people from every country, and most of them were quite good. A good deal of them had been on national teams. So you didn't go there if you were a beginner. You had to be a seasoned black belt, and you had to carve your way into being there. And every day, walking up the steps into the dojo in Ebisu, got more and more nervous, wondering, oh, what's going to happen today? Because it was rough. It was very rough. That was I would say, early 80s to late 90s was the peak, maybe even mid-70s to late 80s, the peak for the organization. The instructors that are still there today were teaching, and they were in their prime at the time. Tanaka Sensei was on the national team at the time, and a lot of those others, and they were training us. So it was very energetic, lots of sparring, lots of kumite, and you were always getting whacked around. And so what that did, so once I got to Tokyo, I'd be training 3 times a day, 6 days a week, actually twice on Saturday, and Sunday was off. It was quite grueling. They were pretty intense classes. So after a few months, I'd come home. All my students would disappear for about a month because I'd
be a little
overzealous.
A little hardcore.
So by going there for long periods of time, it worked well. And then I went over again 2 years later and lived at the Hoitsugan, which is a little dojo that was run by Nakayama Sensei.
Wow.
So you had Funakoshi Sensei, who brought karate from Okinawa to Japan, and then Nakayama Sensei, one of his top students, who really incorporated the Japan Karate Association. And while he was alive, he did very well at holding everyone together. So he had his private dojo, and it was just a little place with, you throw a mattress on the floor, and there was a wall, cockroaches this big. But it was cheap, and it was a place to sleep. There's no heat.
And you were there for the training.
That's
what it was most important.
And if you lived there, there was 2 rules. You had to train every morning, and no girls. So, okay, fine. So we would be up every morning early and training with Nakayama Sensei from 7:30 to 8:30, and then we'd have coffee, and then we'd go to the main dojo for the 10 o'clock class. Sorry, 10:30 to 11:30. Then the instructor class came on. So the instructor class was a special training for instructors and would-be instructors, or apprentices, kenshusei as they call them. And then there was always an evening class we could do. So it was pretty intense. And, I would work and save money, get a leave of absence from my job, and then travel, and that's all I did was train. So before going to the World Championships, I did that. I did it for 3 months, went and trained, came back, we went to the Worlds. We did very well.
So you'd be over there for 3 months at a stint?
Yeah.
Wow, that's considerable concentrated time.
Yeah. So there was a period of time, about almost 10 years, I didn't go over, and now at the JK headquarters, they've actually bought, maybe they built this building, but it's dedicated for the dojo. It's 3 floors. It's huge. There's a training camp in the spring, one in the fall, and many instructors like myself attend these camps. So it's for quality control, we'll say. They do examinations for referees, for judging, for instructors, and then the training, the kata that we practice, make sure everything is consistent. And it can still be pretty intense.
Wow.
But it's not, no one's being taken to the hospital on a daily basis.
Not like the 80s.
It's a little more civilized.
Times change, even in Japan.
Yes, that's true.
So, Brad, let's see here. Timeline. As you can see, this guy has tremendous amount of experience. It's just amazing. You know, it's compared to perhaps a lot of the martial arts training in this day and age, which there's nothing wrong with it. It's just it's different. This is a whole lineage that Brad Jones has, continued from 40 years through to today, and still teaches today quite often, which you'll see coming up soon. what age would you say you were when you started
14.
teaching?
Oh, teaching.
Teaching, not
21.
21.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was 21 when I took over the dojo, and quite young and inexperienced, but very enthusiastic.
Okay.
Made lots of mistakes. Probably offended many people. But I always, and this is another point I want to bring up, I've made a success at running a traditional dojo as a business, but I've never been financially motivated. I always thought, if I was going to do this on a full-time basis, I used to be a tradesman, and I made a decent wage as an electrician. So my goal was, if I can make the same kind of money as I did as a tradesperson, but doing what I really have passion for, I'll be very happy with that. So I've managed to do that. However, there was some struggling years. For 10 years I lived in where my dojo was, and mind you, I wasn't married at the time.
That's where
reason.
I first met you, actually, and
Right.
spent a bit of time there with you as well. Yeah.
So there was some struggle there. I drove an old car, I still drive an old car, and you have to save. But this is the sacrifice one has to make to virtually live a dream.
Yeah.
Because the dream was to become a professional martial artist. When I told Sensei Soroka, years ago, I said, Sensei, I'm going to make this a career. I want to be a karate instructor. And the only advice he gave me was, well, that's fine. Be prepared to be poor your whole life.
Wow.
Well, it was a bit of a shock, but at the same time, I accepted that. I thought, okay, fine. If that's what it's going to take, that's what I'll do.
Right.
And I don't care about the money. I never did, as long as I have enough. And since then, I've been involved with other groups. There's a group called NAPMA for a long time, National Association of Professional Martial Artists. And I learned that, no, you don't have to be poor. You just have to be fair. You have to charge a reasonable rate for what you're doing, have excellent classes, continue your education so that you have amazing classes, and it's a snowball effect.
Yes.
When you can actually dedicate 100% of your time to what you're doing, things will improve. When most people are stuck in a position where they have a full-time job, a family, maybe another hobby, and a dojo, well, where in that timeline are you going to dedicate enough time to really focus on developing this? And this is the advantage I had, taking the road that I did.
Yeah.
I managed to write up lesson plans and things I do in my dojo for children, for example. They have to take a note to their school teacher to sign off that they're respectful and cooperative at school and getting satisfactory grades. Parents sign a similar notice before they'd even do a belt test. The whole idea is to develop the person.
Absolutely.
Not just the skill, but the character of the person, which
Yes.
is a cornerstone of traditional martial arts training in Japan, at least, in most places. So I took many, many years to do a lot of work on laying the foundation, and I had no framework to work from. No one had done it before me.
That's right.
I had to sort of invent some of these things.
Yeah. You were a trailblazer in many ways.
In some ways, yes.
Yeah.
And again, I've mentored a few people, and I've seen them do in 3 to 4 years what it took me 25 years to do. Because I was able to show them, no, you do this, and then this is the next step, and then take care of that.
Yeah.
And good for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ready, H, knee, sun, chi, go, 5, 6, touch, go, 2, semi. Okay.
You know, you brought up a very interesting point that I'd like to just reflect on a little bit for people who are watching this, because a lot of this is about being successful in whatever you choose to do. And Brad has chosen the way of karate, and basically, as his teacher told him, you know, be prepared to be poor if that's the direction that you want to take. But what Brad figured out was that, well, you know, if I really concentrate on this and learn as much as I can and really devote myself to it so that I become one of the experts in this field, and that's what Brad did. And because he was able to do that and learn about the business aspects and learn more about the sport, not necessarily sport, but the way things come together in relation to, you know, the science behind the movement and you know, kinesiology, and, you know, really make himself an expert in this field. This is what has created a way for him to make a living and do quite well at it. And believe me, I've been on his sailboat, so it's quite nice. You know, I have no qualms about going on a nice sail. Today would be a nice day. It's sunny and got a bit of breeze too. So, you know, if you're out there and you're wondering, as if you're an artist, you hear a lot of the times the term starving artist. Well, like Brad said, sometimes you have to do that. You might have to do that for a number of years. Brad Case, for 10 years, he basically lived off the bare minimum to create the education he needed and experience he needed to pull forward as an expert and say, hey, you know what? In this field, I'm an expert, and I can give you so much information and knowledge in diverse many ways in regards to whether it's karate, running a business, or science of what we do. And I think, you know, in relation to his passion that led him there, this is what created success. You got to be able to stick through it in the tough times to be able to get to the better times and say, now it's paying off. So.
Have a seat. And then that. And sit up. Everybody count with me. H. C. D. Up. G counts. And go. Good. C. Ah. Good. Two. Just small point. I know sometimes it rubs your tailbone when you go straight up and down. So if you do go to one side, that's fine. But the next time, go to the other side. So you're not doing the same side over and over. You'll actually develop half of your abdominals. Let's do the last 10. Ready? Again. Count out. H. D. Sun. Count loud. G. I want to hear you. Go. Red. G. Turn around back to back. Alright, see who's got some spray for you. Ready? Everything out. Hands, feet. Push! Push!
Is there anything else that, Brad, that for the listeners who are listening to this that you might want to add to that?
The world is a different place than I grew up in, and this is something I'm discovering over and over. And I've concluded that if you want to be a success, and I don't care what, if you don't have a passion, you're not going to make it. You have to be able to do whatever it takes, sacrifice, to do without, to save. I mean, the stuff that our grandmothers told us. Save your money, you're going to need it for a rainy day. You know, we live in this world today where everything is instant. Everybody puts things on credit. For Canadians, the debt ratio is ridiculous. I don't know how anyone is ever going to get ahead long term. You have to just make that decision, and it's a long road for most of us. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, but if you have that passion, that will get you through the difficult times. Because there'll be many days you wake up and think, why on earth am I doing this? Why don't I just get a job? Well, once you've had a taste of working for yourself, and once you've had a taste of living your dream, living your passion, there is no choice about going back. You can't. There's no way you can take direction from someone you maybe don't respect, and it will make a full life. There will be no regrets when you get older. There will be no regrets of what I should have done. A line I heard a long time ago, don't should all over yourself. If you're going to do something, bloody well do it, but you have to make a decision, and you have to stick with that decision. And that will get you through those tough times.
Wow. That is some solid experience talking right there.
Okay, go. And get up and I go.
Also, as I get older, it's wonderful to be around younger people and passing this on to younger people because they need it, especially today. Leaders and role models for young people are not what they used to be.
Right.
Put it this way. So we need to lead that way for them, and sometimes we have to push them harder than they think they should be pushed. because that's the only way it's going to work. And that was quite common in the past and not as common today. So if you're thinking about enrolling children in a martial arts program, look for a school where the teachers have traditional values. It's okay to fail at an exam, for example, if they're not good enough. To pass someone through, to stroke their ego, to make them feel good for that day is not going to work long term. Make sure they have a standard that they're going to stand by and that is worth it. And it'd be a good place to put them. No matter what the discipline is, it's the values that are the most important. It will pay off long term.
Still want to stay in this line?
Yes. Yeah. I'm good.
Make your decision. Stay here, and while you're waiting, focus your mind and relax. Okay. You guys continue while I You've already done it. And it was something soft, something a little harder, something a little harder, something a little harder, something a little harder. But you've already done it. Don't let your mind defeat you by thinking, it's a scary thing. Do exactly what you've just done because you've already done it. Relax. Make contact.
I would have noticed that.
We do this every day to come to the dojo. We black belt in about 10 minutes. Training speeds up because it's more real more often. Even though this is like doing a cut with another person, but the way you attack determines how fast they move, and how threatened they are, and how comfortable they get with that feeling. So with the same partner, this is a little kumite. I start a little bit slow when I say go. Now it's full on for about 10 seconds. Be safe. We're not using hand pads. It was good control. 10 seconds full on.
Wait, this one?
Yes. But just kind of move around, not too hard or strong until you hear go. Full on. See who pushes who around. Hey! That's your name.
So?
growing up here in Canada, of course, in the 60s, 50s and 60s, the typical sports were baseball, hockey, soccer wasn't even popular then, but those were the biggies. So I tried them and was not successful. It just didn't interest me. And then I saw a demonstration one time, I believe it was on television, of some kids doing karate, and I didn't even know what it was. It was quite a shroud of mystery around martial arts back then. And it fascinated me.
Yame, Dojo-kun, seek perfection of character.
Seek perfection of character.
Be faithful.
Be faithful.
Endeavor.
Endeavor.
Respect others.
Respect others.
Refrain from vile behavior.
Refrain from vile behavior.
Sensei. Shinsei. Right. Sensei. Right. Senpai. Right. Yudashi. Right.
Figures. Very fun.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
So we're not warming up with a stretch, we're doing this instead. Schmidt?
So you started at the age of 14,
Yes.
and you trained with Sensei Soroke for many years, okay? And then what happened that you became situated up here in Newmarket, Ontario?
Well, this is my hometown. Our family goes back 6 generations in this area. So being born and raised here, I thought this would be, it was home, first of all, and I thought, well, I'll start teaching here. And then as the years went by, I got more and more proficient at what I was doing. I wrestled with this whole idea, why am I in Newmarket? Why am I not in Toronto or Vancouver or a major city? In the end, it's worked out quite well. I was able to purchase this building that was originally a movie theater. It's 7,000 square feet.
It's big.
It's a big space, yes. And converted it to one of the finest dojos you're going to find anywhere. And I don't think I could have done that in a major city. Now I have people from the Toronto area, from east, from west, they come here. We've had many seminars, coaching sessions, many instructors from Japan have actually come here and done seminars. And that continues to occur. So it's become more of a center where people are willing to come. Being involved in helping others, I don't think you could put a price tag to that. And many people I've spoken to and have met that truly live their passion, money was never their objective in the first place. And they find the biggest joy by helping others. whether it be a teacher, assisting in building a hospital in another country, whatever it might be, that's what gives them satisfaction. I mean, we have to earn a living, we have to live in this world, money is important. However, helping others is even more important. And I found with the dojo, we don't keep everyone that comes here, but my hope is that anyone who trains here at least learns courtesy, respect, some discipline that they can carry forward in their life and apply to other things and become successful themselves in whatever it is they pursue. Because what it takes is passion. And when you have the passion, you'll do whatever it takes. And you'll have your ups and downs, and you'll have your sacrifice, and you'll have your days when you wake up thinking, why on earth am I doing this? I've had many. But you have to work through those things. Fortunately, I learned through my martial arts training discipline. And I think without that discipline, I don't know if I would have succeeded. Because there was some years where I was questioning, why on earth am I doing this? But really, you have to first of all make a decision. And people make decisions every day. I'm going to quit smoking today. But tomorrow, the decision falls. Make the decision, stick to it, and every single day you have to work in that direction. You're never going to go directly to your goal. You're going to go this way, then that way. You might even go backwards sometimes. But eventually, you'll get to your goal. I happen to be a sailor. And in sailing, it inevitably happens when I want to go there, the wind's coming from there, and you can't sail into the wind, you have to tack. So I want to get over there, but first I have to go this way. Then I have to go this way. Then I go this way. And eventually I will end up where I wanted to go.
Right.
This is life's journey. You have to have that light at the end of the tunnel, that goal, that whatever it is, you write a sign, stick it on your wall, look at it in the mirror. There are lots of little things to do to remind you of your goals, but you just have to do it every single day. And if you keep at it, you'll achieve your goal.
Awesome.
Hey. While I was living in Japan, I was training with Sensei, and living in his dojo. It's a private dojo, so if you lived there, you had to train there in the mornings with him. And Sensei was one of the most important students of Funakoshi, who brought karate from Okinawa to Japan. And he died in his 70s. I was fortunate enough to train with him a few times. So he was responsible for a lot of the JKA's organizational status and exporting instructors around the world and so on. Very small man. And one day I was training at the dojo, and there was a fellow who showed up from Fighting Arts magazine. And it was a martial arts magazine from England. Very well known, one of the best magazines I've ever seen. Very good interviews with masters and what have you. So the interviewer is speaking with Sensei, and I happened to be on the side, just listening. In fact, he used me for some photographs, and there's quite a height difference. He's not a very big guy. He looked like David and Goliath. And so I'm sitting on the side, and I'm listening to the interview person talking to Sensei. He says to Sensei, "Oh, do you happen to know," I don't remember the name, "so-and-so Sensei in England? he's a fourth dan in this, and a sixth dan in that, and a second dan in this, and he went through this whole list, and Nakayama Sensei politely listened and nodded, and when he was finished, he said, "Do you know him?" Nakayama Sensei just looked at him and said, "No, I don't know him, but he must be very, very good. Because me, only practiced one style my whole life, it's still not very good." It was wonderful to be around someone that humble.
Yes. You've come a long ways. You've been doing this for practically 40 years now. Where do you see yourself in the future? What happens from here? Do you have any goals,
Yes.
plans?
I mentioned earlier that when I was younger, much younger, I was a musician. We had a little band, and when I got into martial arts, I was fully committed to what I was doing. And at the same time, I promised myself, one day I'm going to go back to music. So I'm 60 now, and my body can't do what it did 20 years ago. But I'm still involved, and I'm still active, and I still want to teach, but maybe not to the extent that I have been for the last many years. So my plan is to sort of step back a little bit, let some others take over, and I've actually started a band. We play, in fact, on YouTube you can look up our band playing the Dojo Blues.
Yes, it's a great video, and it actually is.
And it's filmed in our dojo.
The film is in his dojo, and it's a great song. Brad singing, and it's got some comedy behind it too. When he said you got to look at this, and I looked at it and I thought, brilliant! What a great video, and it's done really well. I've seen comments on his YouTube page from all over the world saying, "Thanks so much for doing this. This is awesome."
Even Chuck Norris put a comment.
Is that right?
Good job. It's kind of a fun thing. We're not taking ourselves very seriously in it, and anyway, I think you'll enjoy that. Dojo Blues karate song. Check that out.
And what's the name of your band?
The band is the Aspiring Legends.
Aspiring Legends. So there you go.
So that's a fun thing to do on the side. But the dojo is still the core of my being.
Fantastic. So I'd just like to say, give my regards and say thank you to Sensei Brad Jones for doing this interview with me. I think you can see there's a lot of wonderful wisdom and knowledge in what he speaks about, and hopefully you're going to take that, you're going to use that in your own life, in your own studies, in your own experience, and make whatever you want to do come true. Have that passion, have that focus, have that discipline, and do whatever it takes to get it done. So this has been another edition for WiseTalks, and thanks very much for joining in. We'll see you on the next show. Bye.
But you just have to do it every single day. And if you keep at it, you'll achieve your goal.